If you enjoy hearing these eerie tales and want more to help you drift off or keep you up at night, don't forget to tap the like button. It really helps the channel grow. Do you know anyone who's ever committed murder? What's the story? One of the most intelligent men I knew, my former boss, R, passed away of old age last year. When he was 16, which would have been in the 1940s, his mostly absentee, degenerate, doper father showed up, took R's younger sister in the garage, and beat her almost bloody with a belt. R arrived just in time to roll up the garage door and told the old man, "You ever touch her again, I'd kill you." The next day after school, he comes home to hear his sister screaming in the garage. He goes in the house, grabs Dad's shotgun, rolls up the door, tells Sis to run, and shoots and kills the sumbitch. R was taken to juvie till trial. Sister was sent to live with an aunt. At trial, the local Baptist pastor told the small-town judge he and his wife would legally adopt R. Judge declared the killing justified, and R grew up safe and loved, and got a degree in psychology. He told me the adoptive parents were his real parents. So I was newly pregnant, and meeting the rest of my family-in-laws during a holiday gathering, I met the aunt who used to be a rising star in LA as a model featured in magazines. If I recall correctly, she spent 17 years in prison because she was a drug mule transporting drugs during her modeling gigs. Anyway, I also met her boyfriend. He was charming, and my 6-year-old son loved him. Heck, even I was swooned by his charisma. When I left the family dinner, I was informed he was recently out of prison because he murdered 2 men and placed them into barrels before dumping them into the sea. Maybe he's a changed man? Error. A year later, I realized I haven't heard about this man in a while. When I asked the in-laws, there was a sudden silence. That's when I found out he murdered another man and tried dumping the body with the same method. You'd think he would have learned his lesson by now. Awkward part is, he left behind a barrel in the house where I'm staying at. It took me 2 years before I pried it open out of curiosity. It was camping gear. Thank you, baby Jesus. My father killed my mother and made it look like a suicide. He admitted it to my sister after he had a stroke and lost his ability to filter his mouth. She was getting 100% disability from the Veterans Administration, as was he. He liked to spend his money on beer and hookers. Saw him once when she was hospitalized. Wanted her to cover the bills. He got nearly as much in a widower's benefit from the VA as she was getting for disability. He was bragging the day before the funeral about how much he would be getting. Who does that? He was so greedy and sadistic I knew he did it all along. He'd abuse my mother to the point that she would break down and have to be hospitalized for up to a year. She was disabled due to having contracted malaria during World War II in the Philippines and having a high fever that normally kills. But in her case, she survived with severe nervous system problems. Very sensitive and vulnerable. He sent her to the hospital many times in the 14 years that they were married and forged his name to her savings where the VA had deposited her checks previously while she was hospitalized. He stole her money every time. And yet the police believed him when he lied and said he never abused her or anyone else. He would beat all of us when we lived with him. My grandmother hired an attorney to go talk to the investigators several months after the funeral, but they said the case was closed and refused to hear anything. My daughter shot and killed her abusive ex-boyfriend in front of me. She had come to stay with us to get safe from him. Every day we caught him in the yard. Every day we called the cops. Every day they did nothing. When he showed up and tried to force his way into the house, daughter grabbed a gun. Told the cops she had a gun. The cops are 2 miles away. They never show. 20 minutes later, he gets sick of waiting on her to give up and charges her. She shoots him at close range. I tell the police. She has shot him and he is on the ground. 15 minutes later, one lone patrolman shows up, sees him on the ground and says, "What's the matter with him?" No ambulance ever showed up even though he was alive for a while after he was shot. They had a restraining order on him we had called daily for a week. They still arrested her for killing him. You know how a grand jury meets once a month to decide if they will proceed with prosecution? They didn't decide for 2 years. Then they let her go as a good shoot. They could have told us that before we spent $20,000 on a defense attorney, and no. We didn't get the money back. even though he never had to defend her.